So in this video we're going to look at solving a quadratic equation when the constant term is equal to 0 or missing. So the directions here say use the zero product property to solve, and we're given a quadratic equation to solve. But before we jump into it, let's recall what the standard form of a quadratic equation looks like. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And we want to talk about the specific case if c is equal to 0, so that right here where we see the c, we're adding a 0, which would really essentially remove the constant term from the equation, and we would get something that looked like this: ax squared plus bx equals 0. And what we want to recognize when we're in this situation with these two terms, they share a common factor x, which can be factored out. And if we factor x off of the ax squared term, we get ax plus, and factor x off of the bx term, we'll just leave a b. And right now we're in a position to be able to use the zero product property because I have a product of two things equaling 0, and I could immediately go to x equals 0 or ax plus b equals 0, and both of these can easily be solved for x. So in a specific concrete case where we have 6x squared equals 15x, if we're trying to use the zero product property to solve it, we know we have to get it equal to 0. So my step one would be to say 6x squared minus 15x equals 0 by subtracting this 15x from both sides. And then we want to recognize that because the constant term is 0, we can just factor an x out. And in fact, in this particular case, 6 and 15 both share a factor of 3, and then x squared and x share a factor of x. So we can actually factor out a 3x, which would leave behind 2x, because 3 times 2 is 6, and x times x is x squared, minus, and here we would be left with a 5 because 3 times 5 is 15. We have a minus sitting there, and there's our x. 3x times minus 5 is minus 15x. And immediately I'm in a position where I have a times b equals 0. So I can apply the zero product property to say that either 3x is equal to 0 or 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. For this one, add 5 to both sides. Divide both sides by the 2. That's the coefficient on the x. So we get x equals 5 halves. Here, if I divide both sides by 3, I'm still going to have x equal to 0. And in fact, anytime we have an equation that has this form, x equal to 0 is going to be one of the two solutions. And if I put this in set notation, I would say x is an element of the set that contains 0 and 5 halves.